This Airbnb property was converting at just 0.9%. Let me say that again, 0.9%. For every 1,000 people who saw it in search, less than one booked. It was invisible. 8 days later, after a full optimization, the same listing hit 0.53%. That's a 489% increase. And during the week of February 2nd, it was converting at 12 times the rate of every similar listing in the market. I'm going to show you exactly what I did step by step with the real Airbnb dashboard data. I'm David Scott, hospitality strategist, founder of STR Booster. I work with short-term rental hosts to help them to increase their booking, optimize listing, pricing, the works, even guest experience. What I'm about to talk to you about is a real client case, a four-bedroom house in Brigantine, New Jersey. It's a very seasonal market. It's near the beach, and the owners were having trouble getting consistent bookings. So we had to look at the market data, look at the ideal guest in the market, and look for ways to even out the occupancy and bookings because they were just getting heavy summer occupancy and some weekend traffic, shoulder season and off season weren't performing. So the main problems we identified were that the listing was really speaking to no one. When you are optimizing a listing, you have to have an ideal guest in mind. And the ideal guest should come from the data that you gather based on the reviews and the market. So we have a tool that we use to create a really robust report and create an ideal guest avatar, and it's called Guest Intelligence. But you can use ChatGPT or some Claude or some other large language model, prompt it, copy and paste your reviews, and get a lot of customer data, guest data that you can then use to help you to identify who your guests are, what type of guests appreciate what you offer, and look at your strengths compared to others in the market. It's time consuming, but the tool that we created actually saves you a lot of time on that. And I'll leave a link in the description below so you can use it for your optimization process. So we looked at that, and that's the starting point for you to be able to create a listing that actually resonates with the person, the ideal guest that you want. Because listing optimization is not about ranking your listing. It's about matching your listing with the correct persona, the correct avatar, the type of guest that you want at your property. And it's not an all-comers type of thing. It's not where you're trying to cater to everybody, because not all guests have the same value. Some guests are repeat guests, and naturally people who are going to come over and over again have a higher lifetime value. That means they're more valuable to your business. And also, many of these guests who love what you offer will become net promoters, and usually they fall along a similar profile. So you create an ideal guest avatar as a tool to understand the guest. Know your customer is a really age-old piece of business advice, and you should not ignore it, and you should use it in this type of situation with your properties. So when I did the ideal guest persona, it looked something like this. I'm going to show you how detailed it is. So by just copying and pasting your Airbnb listing URL, you would get a report just like this. And this is a report that you're not going to find anywhere else. This is what we created. And it's based on years of experience doing optimization of properties and doing marketing strategy for short-term rentals. So this is what we get. And this is from an actual property. It's not the same property. It's a different avatar, but it's just going to give you the idea of what you'll get from the report. You'll get the demographic information, marital status, the imaginary name and imaginary image of the person, so you can visualize who they are. You'll get their marital status, the amount of kids, and what the age of the kids are, even the kids' names, where they live, and what type of house they live in, what type of education, their lifestyle, how their technology adoption rate is, the travel behavior, what their budget is, the travel purpose, interest and preferences, preferred amenities, which is particularly useful when you're trying to promote your amenities or invest in new amenities. This will give you that intelligence. Travel patterns. So are they seasonal, or are they just people who come regularly through the shoulder season? What is the purpose of their travel, the length of stay? And there's also a guest journey map. For those who don't know, guest journey is about how the guest finds their way to you typically, and then how they behave after they stay, like with sharing their experiences. And this is very important to understand in order to be able to create a great guest experience. Also, you get an understanding of what's really matters to them, what really moves the needle, the non-negotiables, the triggers, the amenities that will give you an idea of what amenities that you should be focusing on, and what really will give you a high ROI on amenity investment. Upsells. All of you guys should be thinking about upsells because it's really a way to improve your yield, and it is pure profit because once a person is staying with you, whatever you're upselling actually doesn't cost you incrementally more. So strategic recommendations, your marketing message, what should you be, what are your talking points in your marketing essentially, and how can you optimize the experience, your channel strategy, what channel should you be on, what's the average daily rate that properties in your area can command, and what's the occupancy rate, RevPAR, all that. So this is really robust, and we use it to help us to write and position listings correctly. Okay. So that's just one avatar. But what about, and this avatar is typical in this instance for high season. You have other avatars that you also have to consider, like who's going to take up the slack during the low season and who will take up the slack on weekdays. This avatar is more about like high season, summer with the family and weekend getaways, right? But we also create sub avatars. So we look at the market and we say that market has it has a shoulder season where typically older people, people 50 plus, may like to take a weekend break where they find the rates more within their range and it's quieter and they can take the dog and so forth. So we look at those subsets as well. And we also look at remote workers, traveling nurses, and all those sorts of things, and look at length of stay and measure what the best yield would be based on who's in the market and what their preferences would be, and also how our property matches those preferences and needs, right? So it sounds complicated, but this is really the crucial first step that you have to undertake in order to be able to create a data backed, persuasive listing description and titles that are going to get your property booked. So once you have all this information, now you have some source data that you can use to create a listing within the tone and style that your ideal guest loves, right? And you can also start with a title that actually resonates with them because you look at what motivates them to want to book with you. And then you use that in your title as a key selling point, as your unique selling proposition, basically in your title, right? So you if it's a spot that's near the beach, you can say steps away from the beach, family getaway. It's something that encapsulates in one sentence, less than 50 characters in Airbnb's case, the exact purpose of the trip that the ideal guest wants. So it's not about like putting, the cabin with 4 beds and 4 bathrooms and stuff, because all that stuff is obvious. It's already in your listing. Airbnb's already structured the listings to have all those essential things that people like, if it's a cabin, if it's 4 bedrooms, if it's 4 bathrooms, and all those things. So you don't need to put those things in your title again. What you need to put in your title is that unique selling proposition that emotionally gets to the guest. Your listing summary, your opening summary, which is 500 characters long, that should be not, again, talking about 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and the features. Smart marketers and the best brands, they sell a outcome, a transformation. Like Nike sells you winning. Nike is about being a winner. It's not about the shoes. It's not about the gear. It's about being a winner. And they never talk about how many stitches in the shoes and if it's what material it's made out of and all that kind of thing. They talk about just inspiring you to win. And so when your property, what you're trying to do with that first 500 character summary is you're giving them a elevator pitch, something that's going to stir them emotionally and really resonate with what's the underlying reason why they want to travel in the first place, right? And so for this property, it was family connection, and the property is dog friendly, which is something which is constantly mentioned in reviews and something that we needed to expand on. So we did that, and we used the guest data, and we used the some prompts in Claude to create listing descriptions and titles that actually hit the mark where it comes to the guest that we understand. And what we did was also not just talk to the ideal guest, but try to straddle the way that we describe everything so that it actually it actually is relatable to the sub avatars avatars as well, right? So we did all that, and we came up with a really nicely polished listing description and titles, and we went further than that. We polished up the images, right? So as you know, images are, you can use Nano Banana, and you can use image enhancements tools to actually clean up the images and make them look better. The client's images really were uninspiring, and we actually used some of the images. We staged with AI some of the features of the property, and there's nothing in the content policy of Airbnb that restricts you from doing that. So you're playing within the rules, and you're not misleading anybody, and it's important to ensure that your AI editing tools are accurate. So this is an image from the actual listing. The owner actually did this. I just gave him the software to use, and he did it himself. And you can see he put Netflix in there, which wasn't there in the original image. And he made the outside have a golden hour feel to it. So here's an example of another image that was optimized with AI. And this table was completely empty, and they put a table setting here. And when you see a staged area like this, it actually gives more context it gives more context, gives more warmth, and it stirs the imagination. So it definitely is a lever in improving conversions. So here's our proprietary tool, which is called Snapster, and you can use it for free. I'll leave the link to the app below in the description, and you can just insert your image. Let me just look for a recent image here. But it really will make the property look much nicer, and at least the first 5 photos that you see, you should be making them better, because those are the ones that sell, particularly the first one, right? So I'm going to put in this image of a hot tub, right? And there are various ways that you can. It's already preset for which OTA you're using, and you can just put in here. All right. So you do have to do a bit of prompting. It's not perfected yet, but it works. If you'll see a vision plan, and as long as you prompt it in such a way that the vision plan gives you the exact output that you want, then you'll be able to get the exact results that you want. So I'll give it time to do its thing here, but so here we go. So this is just giving you, all right, look. So isn't this much more appealing than this one? Doesn't this sell better? Don't you feel as though you would stay at this property more than you'd stay at that one? And it looks super realistic. There's nothing unethical about it. It's not, these people don't exist, but it's just the same thing as you'd hire like 2 models to do staging. It's just the same thing. And you're not misleading anyone. You're just giving context to the image. So use an image like this, download it, pull it into the image gallery on Airbnb, and there we have a listing that definitely will outshine numerous other listings, right? So that's what we did there, right? So we did a lot of improvement of images for the listing. So we identified the ideal guest, we did our market research, we positioned the property correctly, we did the images, and now we're going to look at pricing. So for pricing, they didn't have the kind of strategy that would help them to ride out the extremes of the low season and the shoulder season. So we had to really look at who was in the market and what the competitors are also doing. We didn't want to rely too much on the competitors, because when you're doing your own strategy, you have to look at your unique strengths and try to leverage them and position your property in such a way where it doesn't come across as a commodity, but it comes across as a solution to the underlying needs of your ideal guests. So, in other words, rather than just being a place to stay, it's a place that transforms your family into a closer knit and closer knit unit. It is a place where couples can come and bond and de-stress and make their marriage endure. There are a lot of different underlying reasons that people stay at your property, and it doesn't naturally it doesn't it's not just about like somewhere to stay and a price and all that kind of thing. So once you position yourself correctly, then you can create a pricing strategy. And I like to call it yield strategy, because yield is more important than revenue management or pricing, because yield is about showing the right property, the right person at the right time for the right price. And it is more about trying to spread throughout your calendar year the kind of doing the distribution with your property that gets you the most profit by using every channel in to its own strength. So Airbnb caters mostly to younger millennials and Gen Zs who are on a budget, compared to VRBO, who are more mature families who stay longer and usually less price sensitive. And you have traveling nurses who are you have their own subset in a medium stay market, and it goes on. But you have to find a way, just like hotels do, to look for different tiers and groups that will come in at various times and help you to get the highest yield on your property. So when the night is unsold, it will you'll lose that for life. You'll never get that back. The time that's gone, you'll never get it. If you look at a hotel, for example, they will give special deals to airlines, and they give them at ridiculously low rates because they know that these guests come over and over again. The flight attendants and the pilots and the whole crew that come over and over again. They usually give them a plan that has like maybe no breakfast included and it's just really basic, but they know the value of the business is in the fact that these people are going to keep the lights on even throughout the low season and the shoulder season. And typically, though, that rate tier, they don't have any standing in high season, so they don't have the preference to stay at many hotels during high season. So think of it that in that light, who's going to come in and pick up the slack midweek, and how do you differentiate how you cater to and target each group based on what they're looking for, and how you can avoid unnecessary losses of nights when you have a tier of the market that you can possibly use to fit the night tiers that match your strategy, of course. So I hope that is clear. If you're not clear on that, please comment and I'll send over a full guide to my yield management approach, so I have it documented. All right. So we went in and we actually increased we length of stay. We increased length of stay during certain periods, and in other periods we reduced it. Of course, high season, you want your length of stay to be longer, and then we of course tightened the cancellation policies during high season, made them more uh, relaxed during the low season, and also ensured that our orphan nights were set up correctly so that there weren't any gaps, and there weren't any missed bookings during periods that are short than the normal default length of stay, minimum length of stay. So we did all of that, and then we started looking at other channels as well, like traveling nurses and Zillow for medium term bookings. That was during the off season, which was really right. So one of the other things you can do is to optimize by creating different seasonal, like editing your photos for the season. So if it's winter is coming up, you change the photos to winter photos, and if spring coming up, you change them to spring photos. You get that boost from people who can actually looking for that experience in a seasonal content. So um, this is not really a Price Labs tutorial, but I just wanted to give you a sense of what we did to improve the results so much in such a short period of time. So we basically Airbnb listing optimization, the conversion went up like by 489%, and we were able to diagnose what was wrong. We put together everything based on data, and we took action, really helped to improve the yield and also to drive more bookings through pricing the property in a way that's strategic and is aligned with the demographic that's in the market in particular. So, yeah, take advantage of the free tools, and please like and follow and share. You found this valuable. We're trying to grow the channel and appreciate every bit of support we can get. Comment below if there's anything you think I missed that you'd like help with. And till next time, this is David Scott from STR Boost. I'm out.